780. Connected to attitude problem.
This Memorial Day, Hyundai is introducing some very special offers, like doubling the service bonus for all military and first responders.
Get a Tucson for 0% APR for 84 months, or lease for only $159 a month. Visit buyhyundai.com today.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I want to know how the divorce laws came to be. I do. I want to know. Somebody must have written a book on it. I just want to know how we got to this place where, first of all, this idea that you have to live in the style of which you become accustomed.
I can help you here. I can help you in a couple ways. Here's the big one. Lawyers make a lot of money if there's a large settlement.
So it's lawyers.
Yes. Lawyers don't make a lot of money if there's no settlement. You know, Phil Hartman, when he was getting divorced, one of the things that he said to me, I go, dude, just fucking give her half. Come on, man. You make a lot of money. He goes, it's not half. He was crazed. He's like, it's 2/3. He goes, the fucking lawyers get 1/3. It's goddamn scam. And I've had friends that have gotten divorced, and even though they had come to an agreement with the ex, like, let's listen with this, and you'll get this, and I'll get this, fine. Then the lawyers jump in, he's trying to fuck you, and this and that, they're trying to fuck you over, you deserve more.
That's exactly the plot of the movie Marriage. Have you seen Marriage Story?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
no.
It's terrific. I was again at the beginning because it was about an actress and a theater director, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, can't you at least pretend that there are people in America not outside of your exact circle? There have been so many big movies, that are just about your world of show business. Have a little creativity, make them something else. But okay, I got over that. And then it's just a terrific movie about, there's no bells and whistles. It's just, we're married, we seem very happy, and then, well, we're not happy, and we're going to get divorced, and then let's just do it amicably and not get lawyers involved, and then it all falls apart. And once it goes down that path that you're talking about, it just becomes as vicious as anything.
Yeah.
Without guns.
Well, I had a friend who got divorced and no family, okay, no children. They have children. And it dragged on for more than, I think, almost 3 years. And even though it got to conclusion, he paying for his wife's lawyer. I go, it's like you're paying for the general of the army that's trying to kill you.
You're paying for someone to fuck you in the ass.
Yeah.
You're getting fucked in the ass.
It's broken.
You
can feel it.
I have seen so many men broken by
devastated.
Every time somebody says, people unfortunately get a horrible disease like cancer, and they say, I couldn't have gotten through it without my wife. I always think, yeah, and maybe she gave it to you. I don't mean, of course, literally, but I just mean that when you're in a bad relationship, the stress, we don't know what contributes all the things to cancer, but that certainly is, I'm sure, one of them. And then going through a divorce like that, I've seen people, like you say, just broken.
They get wrecked. And it's a system. The reason why the divorce laws are set up the way they're set up, people think, oh, we're protecting women. Horseshit. They're doing it so that they can extract the maximum amount of money out of the male. That way, the lawyer gets the biggest chunk that they could possibly get. Most lawyers have they're working on a percentage basis.
Right.
Especially if a woman doesn't have as much money, or if she's, the lawyer will come to her, look, we've got a deal here. We'll figure this out. Don't pay me now. We're going to make sure we get you the most. We'll take care of it all in the end. And this is what has happened to several of my friends that have been divorced. And you know what it is once you see it. What I get and I understand and I accept and I support is child support. I mean, I grew up with a deadbeat dad. My dad never paid for shit. And I have many friends that have also experienced a lot of financial hardship because their dad was a piece of shit and didn't want it for their children. people very close to me, including my wife, when there's a big difference between that man take responsibility for children. There's a big difference between that and alimony. Alimony is creepy. Something creepy about, like, my friend, like I said, didn't even have a child with this woman. He is still paying her, by the way. This is the same guy, very good friend of mine, has been divorced for 14 years, has been married for 12 to a new woman, still paying the old woman. My joke was like, you fucked her so hard she can't work.
Right.
Like, she literally can't work. Because he's a wealthy man. He made good money. And he works really hard. He's in the business. He has a real job, and he works, long fucking hours every day. And he has his own business, and he has to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone he doesn't even talk to anymore because he used to fuck her.
I knew of a guy who was a doctor who went to jail at night because he couldn't make the payments.
Oh, God.
And they would let him out on weekends to do round stuff. But he was,
Desktop i5JJ0 disconnected.
I got a better one for you. Want to get him crazy? Yeah.
Connected to desktop i5JJ0 and attitude problem.
Getting divorced was when he was on news radio. So it was a financial peak. He was the star of the show. He's making all payments
to that.
were set up for that.
Sure.
So this is in Canada, right?
Right.
And the judge tells him, he tells the judge, I don't make that kind of money anymore. That was an extraordinary time in my life. It's very hard to make that kind of money. I'm an actor. The judge says, your ability to pay has no relation to your obligation to pay.
Wow. Think of that. Just pause here for a moment. What a statement. And where else would we say that?
It's insane. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands. Like as if he's supposed to conjure this up. Like his career is supposed to magically resurrect in some really financially viable
since
way.
It is usually the man still who probably has the more money and is paying the woman.
Yes.
It's very anachronistic to how we have come to think about women as equal and strong and able to do everything we can do. But when it comes to us, it's like, we got to take care of them. Well, they're very dependent.
I think it's set up because the men in general are in control of the finance or make more money, and they can extract more money from them that way. I don't see a lot of people
turning it down.
Yeah, I mean that's why I think it's set up the way it's set up. It's dark, man. I mean, the only time it's happened the other way that I know of is Tom Arnold. Tom Arnold got away clean.
Sure, yes, it does. It does happen the other way.
He's one for the males.
Right.
We got one on the board. There's if the board was here, it would be a fucking billion scratches on one side and 4 lines and the one through it, and then next to it is Tom Arnold.
That's why I never
a couple of the dudes
never understood the concept of marriage, because when people would say, why don't you want to get married? I'd say, why would I invite the federal and state government into my love life?
It's very important. You have to have it. Otherwise, it's not real. If you don't get a signed piece of paper, what the fuck do you have?
Just your feelings for that other person?
Not good enough. How should I tell her friends? She's got to tell her friends that he really cares.
You've been brainwashed by...
No, he really cares. You think I'm serious?
I can see she's trained you to say the right answer. Well, I think that's crazy. I think that's a crazy backward way to look at it, that without the piece of paper, it's not real.
It's not real.
Whatever you have with someone emotionally, that's what's real. The paper is what's fake.
You shouldn't be worried about divorce because we're never getting divorced.
Oh, I'm not worried about you.
What the fuck you're doing. Why you're getting so upset about this, Bill? Just sign the paper and get married. We're going to be together forever. I don't know what you're worried about. Jesus Christ, you're freaking out about, don't you love me? You're freaking out about a divorce? We're not getting divorced. We love each other. God, sign it. Sign it. And then when you sign it, the darkness, clouds roll over. Ha, 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 ha.
But also, humans change. It's it's so funny when you could say about anything else, I'm not married to it, Do you want that thing there? I'm not married to it. But with a human, the thing that's most malleable, we're I'm going to marry it.
Well,
but for some people, it works fantastically.
I think in some countries they actually have term limits. They actually have marriage terms.
I don't think that's a real thing.
I think it is.
Really?
Yeah, Google it. Some countries have like a term. We did this before, right? Yeah, it's real. Some countries have like you could get married for like 7 years.
Oh, I see. And then you have to
like a
re-up.
7 year. Yeah, and you can decide at the end of it. You're like, look, I think we're good. Let's get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that's putting a level of logic into it that's probably not going to really obtain when this moment comes, because by that time you're so codependent.
Girls are not going to tolerate that. They go, let me ask you this. How long you been with Bill? And he wants a fucking term limit?
Right.
My God, you got to be together forever. What are you doing in the fucking term limit? Because if you stuck with Dave, I bet Dave wouldn't ask for it.
Right.
Dave's not like that. Like, Dave might be a little boring. Maybe he's not as funny. But he's a fucking solid guy, and you would have signed a contract. You'd be fine, girl. You'll be fine.
It's like when agents are competing to sign you, and they're like, "You didn't read for that? Oh, I could have."
Well, as soon as there's a financial incentive with anything, things get squirrely.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it also, I remember it's funny you mentioned Tom Arnold. I had him on the very first episode of Politically Incorrect, I think with Roseanne, and they were talking about marriage, and he said the great thing about marriage is when you have a big fight and somebody says, I'm leaving, you can go, you can't, we're married. And I got what he was saying. Some people like that you have this self-imposed barrier that
makes it more difficult.
It's like a waiting period with guns. Or when they make you look at the sonogram when you want an abortion in some states, look at your fucking baby on the computer screen there and come back tomorrow and tell me you want to kill that kid. You have a waiting period. You have to cool off. You can't just leave. Whereas if you're not married, you can.
Right. Unless
you live together, that's more complicated, or kids are more complicated. But yeah.
Hello, Bill.
Great to be here in the man cave.
This is the professional extension of the man cave.
Connected to Bluetooth program.
This is the only part in the building.
It's worth it just to see it. No, really. I thought I did not expect this. But, as I was just telling you off the air, I invited myself on this show.
Yes. Well, you requested it.
I did.
I would have invited you.
We're coming back on the air. Real Time's coming back in a few days, and we always do something to promote it. I was let's do that show. I like that show. Why can't I do the shows I listen to?
Got that in Mexico.
You should put that in it looks like it should be a ring. For
maybe
for a
slash.
A roadie.
For a roadie. What season are you guys coming into?
Oh, fuck. I don't know. Seasons, it's hard to... I can just go by years. We started on HBO in 2003, but then we used to do... For the first few years, they had us do 2 seasons. They took them a while to get the idea that this is not like The Sopranos or any other show. This kind of show is a habit show. It has to be on most of the year. We used to do a season from February to May, and then we'd be off for 4 months and come back for a few months in the fall. That's not the way you can do it when you're following events, a live show.
Right.
So somewhere in there, they just so that it was one long stint as opposed to 2. So I guess that they counted the early as 2. We've been on HBO since 2003, but of course I started. You were on the old show, Politically Incorrect. Somebody sent me a clip of that. Wow, I couldn't even bear to watch it just from the way we looked. It was too sad.
Time is cruel.
It's actually we look better now just because we look douchier, younger, of course. I mean that's the trade-off in life is that you're douchier when you're younger.
Yeah.
But you do look more pristine, shall we say.
You're less beaten down by time.
Yeah, but that started in '93, so I've already passed.
With zero interest and zero payments for 90 days, you have zero excuses to not have your new Hyundai by Memorial Day. Get an
heard y'all earlier. I want to say about the rapture, or that word, the rapture, or that event, is that anybody that claims they're going to know that day is a false prophet or a liar or misguiding or a con artist or whatever. There's nobody, even according to the Bible itself, there's nobody that knows that day except supposedly God the Father. Not even
What
Jesus.
about what do you think about people who just say there is going to be such a day and we only don't know when?
Well,
What about those folks?
Okay. One is that according to the Bible there is going to be a day like that.
Yeah.
But only God the Father knows that day.
But
not Jesus Christ, not any person on this planet.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
It will be the day that God the Father.
God the
Yeah,
Father.
what I'm asking though is, what's the evidence that there's in fact ever going to be any such day? There's no evidence that there's even ever going to be such a thing.
There's no evidence. The whole deal about whether it's Christianity or whatever religion, in this case Christianity, is faith. And you either believe the word or you do not believe the word.
That's what I thought. Thanks.
Yeah.
I say if you're looking for evidence for everything, then well, it's pretty.
Well, I think that when we're talking about something like the end of the world, that's something that would be important enough, if it was true, that it's worth demanding the evidence.
See,
right?
wait a minute.
If anybody's going around saying there's going to be this end of the world, right, and not providing evidence, but expecting anybody to believe it, right? That's an important enough claim. It deserves a demand for evidence.
Okay, I hear you. Let me speak now.
Okay.
How are you going to have evidence of that when you're talking about something that's in the future?
Not my problem.
Yeah.
If there isn't evidence of that, then the right thing to do is to be skeptical that it's even ever going to happen.
There's nothing wrong with being skeptical, because in your mind...
But apparently...
But I think there is something wrong with going ahead and believing it without any evidence.
And as you pointed out,
that's getting into irrationality.
Our previous as one of our previous callers clearly indicated, and what we were talking about earlier when Jeff used to be hosting, he would bring in his rapture reports, is that there have been quite a lot of people in the religious community who have made a great career out of predicting the end of the world, you know, getting people to either fork over their property, their money, etc., what have you. And again, you could say, well, those guys are false prophets and what have you.
They are.
But that's begging the question. The fact remains is that if you are willing to admit that, oh, well, there are these rapture claims, but they can't be proved, then it doesn't matter whether or not the person is a false prophet and just trying to profiteer off of the claims. What matters is that no one should be taking the claims seriously.
Well, first of all, okay, y'all spoke. Give me just a moment. Let me speak, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're just trying to make our position.
No, I hear you. I've heard it, but let me finish. Is that when you talk about the Bible, and this is spoken in the Bible in prophecy, that there is no evidence that we can tangibly touch or see now that's going to prove that you either have faith in the Word or you don't.
Okay, we're aware of that.
Right. Well, that's the whole point. Is that when you go, well, we demand some evidence. Who you or I to demand from the Creator of this universe?
A rational thinking being.
Rational human beings who have control over our lives.
No, you don't. We won't control over our lives. I won't control over my life. You won't control over our lives. But there's things that happen.
There's things that happen.
Things that happen that are beyond our control. Yes.
Right. So I'm just saying that if you guys want evidence, you only can have faith and believe.
But
the rapture.
Okay, and the problem with that position, hang on, Ashley.
That's what the whole spiritual.
But the problem with that position, the problem with accepting faith as a valid means of, okay, this is how I'm going to make a decision about something, is that it allows these false prophets and profiteers about whom you are complaining so hard to do their business.
Okay, well,
because when people take a faith position and say, all right, well, I guess I will have faith in the Bible when it says this thing, and I will have faith in this leader when he says, well, I have to go up to the mountain cabin now, but it's going to Tuesday. If you're going to say that that's the position, that faith is a permissible way to decisions about things, you have to understand that it allows believers to take advantage.
No, a true believer. Let me finish, please.
All right.
A true believer reads the Word, and if he read the Word and knew what he was talking about, then he can think. And when he hears a kook say, so-and-so day, then the world's come with me. By the way, sell everything and bring it with you. I know he's a liar. Because I have read and I believe and I know in the Word that nobody knows that day. And the last thing is, that is at the end of the book, or the end of the world, or as we know it. It's really not the end of the world. The rapture is not the end of the world. The rapture is another stage that is further down the road, but there's more to the world after the rapture.
The trouble with no, we're actually arguing amongst ourselves whether we can.
The rapture is not the end of the world.
Yeah, we know. It's part of the process that leads to the tribulation.
Well, it depends. It, of course, depends who you ask, right?
Well, I don't know anybody that believes a rapture is the last day of the world. It is the gathering up.
Dude. We speak to all kinds of different Christians. We've heard an astonishing range of different interpretations. So, we're just saying.
Well,
and then I got into that same debate with somebody.
24.
I got into the same debate about.
In my mouth. There's only one of.
Attitude Problem disconnected.
I got into a debate with somebody talking about, there isn't multiple interpretations of the scripture, and once again, that's that really closed mindset that what this person was saying is that who I have learned the scriptures from, they have taught me the proper and correct way to read the word, and there is no other way to read it. But then you go to the next church and they look at it really different. Like this dude just said, like, oh, the rapture, I don't think the rapture is the end of the world, or other people will tell you that will be the end. The rapture will be the end of the world as we know it. Yo, Dav. I do not believe in a end times. No. I do not believe in the end times. I do not believe in any biblical prophecies or any type of predictions, whether it be from soothsayers or fucking psychics or whoever. What was the one dude's name? Edgar Casey. Casey predicted a lot of shit. Nostradamus predicted a lot of shit. What was the one other guy? I can't think of this motherfucker's name. But people predicted shit that don't come true. Like there is no end times. You know, once again, like, how many times has the end of the world been? Hey Siri, how many times has the end of the world been predicted?
Okay, I found this on the web for how many times has...
Well, this isn't really a good list, but I mean, these are some recent shits, yo. This the 2020 apocalypse, the One World Order, the Mayan calendar, the coming of the rapture, the black hole from Geneva. Motherfuckers thought that shit was gonna end the world. Like when Geneva turned on the fucking super hadron collider or whatever it is. Like, no, it's gonna create a black hole and end the world. Like, but it didn't though. The Y2K Millennium Bug, Nostradamus and the King of Terror, the Great Flood, like, but then there's been like many religious leaders who have predicted the end of the world since the fuck all the way now, and especially in the 1600s and 1700s, motherfuckers always screaming, "It's the end of the world," and fucking. Like these right here, more recent times, motherfuckers still, like, every couple of years somebody says the fucking end of the world is coming. With fucking Jamestown, Jim Jones, you know what I'm saying? The end of the world shit. Motherfuckers out there in Texas and Waco. And some end of the world type cult. Motherfuckers always be saying that shit. Yo, the end of the world is coming. Siri knows. Yeah, and I even mentioned that in like some of my old raps, the 2012, because I was all up on that shit, yo. Like motherfuckers really just was feeling some weird type shit. It's not what we can predict it. We really can. The world will not end until our sun ends. Our sun is only halfway through its lifespan. That bitch is gonna be around for trillions of years, or unless we get hit by a fucking major ass asteroid. Other than that, we probably wipe ourselves out from some weapons of mass destruction, toxifying and polluting our ecosystem and environment until it's no longer sustainable for our life forms, or creating some super virus bug that we don't have immunity to, which depletes the human population. But that doesn't mean the world is going to end. You know what I'm saying? People think like humans are the end all be all. Like, if we weren't on this planet, this shit'd still be just fine. It'd be okay. You know what I'm saying? The trees and the butterflies and the snakes and the lizards would be fine without us. The dolphins and the whales and the crows and the bats, they'll do good. They don't need us. The ants and the bees, they don't need us. We need all their asses. So people are just so consumed with believing like everything is for us. Everything is for humans. It's not. It's really not. There is no fucking end times. If all humans drop dead right now, the world won't end. Like, nothing's gonna happen when it happens. This shit will continue and go on for eons and eons, trillions of years into the future, unless some asteroid or something smack this bitch around and fuck it up real bad, or some dumb shit like that. Other than that, this planet is good. It's good. The world won't end. We'll end before the world ends. You know what I'm saying? Just being as sentient, conscious beings, we still have this thing about us that we are it. We're not. You know what I'm saying? Well, we can't even control goddamn viruses. Them motherfuckers stronger than we are, smarter than we are, more adaptable than we are. We're not the fucking shit, yo. And all these stories and myths and legends that we've told ourselves over the years to give us this sense of security that we are important within what we understand as the cosmos, it just makes us feel nice. And feeling nice is good. We all like to feel nice and comfortable. But the facts is, no rapture, no end times, no end of the world. Nothing like that will ever happen, yo. Like I say, if you want to call some major world war, atomic, nuclear, fallout type shit, Space Force, if you want to call that the end of the world, that shit might happen. You know, that shit might happen. And then people are translated into, you know, weapons from space shooting down massive atomic explosions, blowing up stuff, and then they'll say, oh, and then it was the fire and brimstone from heaven. It's Bible prophecy, and you can interpret that shit and make it say whatever you want to say. And there's be wars and rumors of wars and famine and plague, and it's what's happening now. It's like, this shit happens all the time. 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, you could have said the same thing. Because there was rumors of war with the Nazis and Hitler, and there was famine and plague. Why didn't the world end then? Wouldn't that have seemed like the end times? And that's the thing that we are not comfortable with. Once again, the dude who explained it the best. Who says that? I think it was Alan Watts. Yo, it's like, life is a party. Life. It's fun as shit. You're alive. You can see shit. You can experience shit. You can make memories. Like, life is fucking fun. This shit is a fucking party. And everybody you know who's alive, we're all at this fucking party. It's great. It's a great fucking party. And then one day somebody comes and tell you, hey, you got to leave the party. But you know the party ain't gonna stop just because you gone. But you looking like, fuck, all this fun. I got to go. Like, yes, you got to go. Just you. Come on. Your party's over. And that's the worst thing about it, is like, we know it don't stop. And people are still gonna laugh and eat cake and smoke weed and drink beers and come up with new technology and new inventions and new understandings of the world, you know. And you're gonna miss all that shit. You're only here for your time frame. And when it's time for you to leave the party, it fucking sucks. Nobody wants to leave the party. Especially when all your friends are at the party, all your family members at the party. And then after the party, there is literally nothing. You can't go nowhere else and do nothing else. You're done. It's a wrap. Nice knowing you. On the 26th of June, they're sending somebody in space. No, I got on some my and1 footies. I didn't hear about a space launch. But they actually brought some astronauts home throughout this fucking COVID shit. If I was an astronaut, I'd be like, I'm good, bro. I'm gonna just stay up here. I'm good. I don't need to come back down there right now. Y'all motherfuckers acting crazy. No need for y'all. Don't need me. I'll just stay in space. And I'll chill. Or they're sending some people to the space station. The International Space Station. I don't know, man. Space is so weird, dude. Like, fucking around with that flat earth shit, yo. But listening to these flat earth motherfuckers be having you question everything. Because once again, you gotta try to prove them wrong. Like, what the fuck you say? That can't be true. And they try to prove them wrong, you be like, oh, wait a minute. What the fuck? But yo, Wig Splitter was good, bro. This is true. My very excellent mother just served us 9 pizzas. So, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth. No, Mercury, Venus, Earth. My very excellent mother. So Mars isn't closer. Venus is closer. Because we're the third rock from the sun, like the TV show. So the third rock from the sun is the Earth, and the fourth rock from the sun is the Mars. But at the same time, it's like, even the concept of terraforming a planet would take several thousand years. You know what I'm saying? But that's oh yeah. But that's another concept, is building permanent habitations on the surface of Mars, or maybe even subterranean dwellings to help mitigate some of the radiation due to the fact that Mars doesn't have a very substantial atmosphere. And so one of the main things that they are hypothesizing is to build an artificial atmosphere on Mars by just sending megatons of CO2 canisters and exploding them on the planet, releasing, once again, megatons of greenhouse gases on around the planet to force an atmosphere to form. But the planet just seems barren. If you ever watch the movie The Martian, it does have like a lot of real science in it. Not everything isn't real, but there was a lot of real science in that movie, and it would be totally difficult to live on that planet. Yo, it really would be. Not the shark game. This dude playing the killer shark game. But your boy Elon Musk, yo, this motherfucker is determined to get to Mars. But that's, I really think all of these are stepping stones for trying to find a planet that would already be able to sustain our type of life. Okay, so they say we've been to the moon. So we've put satellites in space. We have a space station that orbits our planet. We've been to the moon several times and back. So if we can get to Mars and good morning, bro. If we can get to Mars and see how long we can sustain ourselves there, physically and mentally, and then I think that would be a launch pad for longer endeavors out into our solar systems. But before we're able to leave our solar system and explore be way beyond our star, like the singularity people probably have like the best scenario to make that possible would be you would have to alter your physiology in such a way that you could actually make a journey, like survive the time span that it would take to make the journey, or digitally upload yourself into a computer somehow that would be able to make the journey, or send androids or some type of artificial life out first for these discoveries. Because for people to do it, you would have to have like generational starships, and we haven't even started one of those yet. I mean, there's so many different hurdles to overcome for us to leave this fucking place. But getting to the moon and getting to Mars and all that shit is just basically test runs for bigger projects. Can Mars be made habitable? I don't know. Like you say, terraforming, that takes thousands and thousands of years. And motherfuckers would have to start that shit like in the next couple 100 years. But yeah, same to you, bro. Man, you know I don't celebrate no holidays. Memorial Day, I ain't even gonna lie. I don't even know what that shit supposed to be for. Memorial of what? Is like some war soldiers, some soldier day, a war day or something? Man, I don't know, man. I don't gotta go to work. I appreciate that much about it. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I don't know what this day is for, who I'm supposed to be celebrating it for. The war heroes, fallen soldiers of valor, young men who gave their lives so old men can sit around and get rich and smoke cigars. I don't celebrate no shit like that, man. Every holiday is weird, yo. Some weird shit. Once again, for the simple fact that we still go to war, you can tell that we're not civilized. Motherfuckers think they live in a civilization. If you were civil, you would be able to solve your problems through litigations and debates, not war. And we still go to fucking war, yo. I'm not celebrating no war days for all these young men who gave their fucking lives, and for what? And shit still fucked up. Motherfuckers been giving their lives for centuries. Young men, 20 years old, thinking they're fighting for freedom and country and shit, and it's all bullshit. I seen you, your fucking general hat, yo. Motherfucker like he about to lead the fucking cavalry. I got my stimulus check, yo. You know what I'm saying? Spent all that shit. I own 2 properties though. I paid off my property taxes. paid off my city taxes. I paid off my water tax. And then I paid some bills with that shit. That shit was gone. Burnt that little check the fuck up. But it's all good though. I say I got receipts. That's how I don't mind spending money if I can have a receipt to show for that shit. You know what I'm saying? I got receipts. Somebody else said that though, damn, you spent that check already? Man, my taxes was already due. I was like, shit, gotta get paid anyway. I got how much? Yo, put that on them taxes. Put that on them taxes. Put that on them bills, yo. I'm good. I'm chilling. That shit, perfect timing. I need another stimulus check now because it's June and in between the year, my fucking my school tax is coming out now. I think the school tax is gonna come out next month for August. And shit, for my district. My school taxes, I paid $1,500 in school taxes a year, yo. Just because I'm a property owner in the city, so you got to put towards your school taxes. So give me another stimulus check. That shit going right towards my school taxes. And when they building a new high school too, when that shit done, I got to go look at this shit, make sure my tax dollars have been put to proper use. These motherfuckers need to have Wi-Fi, wireless, touch screen, everything, the best communications, the newest of the newest and the best of the best. If I gotta put all this goddamn money into the goddamn city each year, shit. That's crazy, cause I said I filed for partial unemployment, but I never received any unemployment. I mean, a lot of other people getting their shit, but I never got that shit. Like, I was surprised that I qualified for the first round of that stimulus check shit, yo. I wasn't looking for that shit. That shit came a paper check in the mail, cause I ain't give my fucking bank information or nothing. I was like, I ain't getting that shit. That shit came, I was like, word? Nigga, voting for Trump. Voting for Trump. Yeah. So I got fucking the first half of the year, my property taxes out the way. So now I gotta do the second half of the year, property taxes, school taxes. I think the last quarter I got another city tax. And then there's the Wyoming Valley Waste and Sanitation Authorities. Gotta pay them motherfuckers like $65 every quarter for your sewage lines and all that shit, for maintenance of your sewer lines. But owning a house, this shit expensive as fuck. I swear, yo. Oh, registered voters? I ain't registered to vote. Like I said, I'm so surprised I got that shit, dude. I was shocked. How I get that shit? And I ain't even get my unemployment. And I filed for unemployment. I put all my information in for unemployment, my banking information, all that shit. Never got that shit. But I ain't never filed for this stimulus check or nothing. And that bitch come straight to my goddamn doorstep. I'm confused. How y'all give me something I wasn't expecting, and the shit that I'm asking for? They're like, nah, son. Look. Don't use your unemployment benefits. We got you covered. Just hold out. I'm gonna send you some bread, yo. Don't use your benefits yet. You can save them for later on when you really need it, is what they're trying to say. Because you have to build up your unemployment benefits. And there is you can have your account with so much money in it, and they give you, a portion of that each week like a paycheck, but that shit does run out. So damn. I don't know, man. This shit is confusing with me right now, dude. This whole shit, yo. That's what I was just saying, yo. I'm just happy that I've been able to maintain my employment. I got commissions I'm working on. Like, a lot of shit ain't really bothering me, not financially. I was able to get that fucking stimulus check. Wasn't even counting on that shit. That was like extra money. You know what I'm saying? Extra money. And like I said, I could have went out and did all kind of stupid shit with it. Fuck that. I put that shit right on fucking like my biggest bills. Property taxes. Fuck that. Like, I'm doing pretty fucking good, yo. I know that's right. You get double, put that bitch right in the savings. But that's if they send me another one, that's what I'm gonna do, yo. Put that shit in my goddamn savings account. Oh, I had something to show you too, bro. Watch this shit. About to get in pilot mode. Alright, been running my mouth for a fucking hour. Let's get some painting done a little bit. I really want to try to knock this yellow out until tomorrow. Or maybe even later this evening, I can get back into flesh tones and detail the hands. And I'm almost done with this shit, yo. Ooh, I never thought about that, yo. Some 4th of July fireworks and just zoom the drone right up close to it. Yo. Yeah, that's gonna be hot. Man, goddamn, the director. Yeah, so it's not much left. I want to add a little bit more highlights on the nose, the nose, the bridge of the nose, and the forehead right here. The hair needs some detailing in it, but once I do the shirt, detail the hands, we're almost done. The background is next to nothing. It's just a white sheet that she's laying on. So maybe I can have this thing done by next weekend. Maybe.
When you're talking about earlier, you said something.
The issue
is. Your name Jeff, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. First, a little earlier, you made a comment about wackiness about Christianity.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say about that is.
You flying over the explosion. How high are you? Do you I'm pretty sure you can tell how high the drone is, but how high do you have to be up to be above fireworks to look down at it? That's crazy, dude. $2 miles? What the fuck? How long the battery life on it? That's going up. 2 miles. I can't even run 2 miles.
When, if you believe in Jesus Christ.
All right, I got something to show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all real quick. About 31 minutes. I don't know if I did show y'all guys this the other day or not, but it's a top secret project. Between oh shit. I better do this. So this little brush holder, it's made out of some cardboard. Very simple design. That's the part though. It's called the Prince brush holding system. All packaged up. Very little assembly required. No fasteners or anything because it just snaps together. Made out of a very durable PVC plastic. You can get yours in black, gray, or white. At the very, very low cost of $15. And then you can paint like the pros. Then you can paint like the pros with your very own Prince brush holding system. No more messy brushes everywhere and all that good stuff. Let's try to do some product development over here. See if we can get this thing popping. Gonna contact a company over in China. China. You know why? Because China is the king of manufacturing. They make everything for the low. Somebody told me if it costs $100 to make it in China, it gonna cost you $600 to make that shit in America. Sorry, America. Gotta get a Chinaman my business. I ain't got $600 like that for one unit. But anyway, these things probably, we're looking at maybe $2 per unit for production. We're trying to figure out a way for free shipping. Not telling you how we doing that, but I know people who know people. So $2 per unit, get them shit shipped for free. charge $15. Start out with 500 units and see how I move them, bruh. I'm about to have one of those little $1 million products, yo. I've been trying to find a idea like that you can just sell for cheap. I really just wanted like $1 idea, something that you can sell for $1 or $2 to 1 million people. Then you're a millionaire. 1 million people buy shit every day. Like those little cheap chargers, phone chargers that be in the gas stations. You know how many people buy them shits a day just because they shit broke and they need one like right then? Man, 1 million people probably buy them shits a day. Just little shit like that. And them shits ain't cheap. Them shits be like $5, $6, $7. That's all you need. Just like some one little product that's useful. And kind of cheap. Man, I think I got one, bro. I think I got one. See how this shit work out. I might call it the brush buddy. You know what I'm saying? I might be a millionaire with this shit, bro. Let me find out. But once again, it's me and the partner, because I didn't make that shit. I didn't make that final prototype. I don't have the materials for it. I didn't make the packaging, and I don't have the Connect in China. But I know somebody who has the Connect. So going this shit together. Yo, you take your percentage, give me the rest. As long as I'm a millionaire, I don't care how much you make. You can be a millionaire too? Great. But I want to be a millionaire first, nigga. Both of us can be millionaires. I don't care. I'm not trying to be greedy. I don't want to take everything for myself because it's just my idea. I ain't put none of that shit together, and I don't know the people to talk to. But I know the person who know the people. See, that's how you gotta do it, man. You can't know everything. You can't do everything, and you can't know everything. It's impossible. You give a fuck how smart you is or how smart you think you are. You always gotta have a team. But you gotta get the right motherfuckers on the team. That's why you fuck with people who do shit. And don't fuck with people who don't do shit. Because if you fuck with people who don't do shit, then you won't never do shit either. You won't accomplish a damn thing because you doing nothing with the other motherfuckers. But as long as you fuck with people who doing stuff, then you gonna get shit done. That's how I look at it. I said this young lady hit me up. I gotta do some drawings later this afternoon. I got another commission. You know what I'm saying? Big ass commission. Once again, I could do this thing by myself, but I'd rather bring somebody else in to help me on it. So on this other big ass commission I got another art homie helping me with that shit, yo. We just gotta get some drawings and some sketches and come up with some ideas and shit to show the owner before we get started. But we're on a kind of a loose time frame, and she's giving us like a lot of creative leeway. She just has a very vague idea of what she wants to see. And we're just going to try to deliver that to her. So later this afternoon, I'll probably do a bunch of sketches and stuff for this other project I got going. You know why? Because she doing shit. And I'm going to fuck with her because I be trying to do shit. And then when her shit get popping, they gonna be like, ooh, girl, who help you with that? I'm like, oh, this brilliant artist named Prince. That singer? That nigga dead. No, fool, not the fucking singer. Travis Prince. He called himself Prince. That's his real name. His real name is Prince, and he's a painter. So hard to fucking just... Never mind. Why do you call yourself Prince? I get that shit all the time, yo. So on your paintings, I see you sign it Prince. Why do you do that? Because my name is Prince. The author is currently known as... currently known as Prince. Prince the painter. Oh, the patent already there, bro. That's why I just showed it. Steal it if you want. You're gonna be paying for all my units getting produced. I'm gonna sue the shit out you. Oh yeah. Fox, you should have had a copyright on that Brush Buddy name too, cause I'm about to send that shit to my homie right now and tell him to copyright that shit. I ain't lying. I'll toss you a couple dollars. What you need? $500? Some shit like that. You good? $500? It's just a name, man. It ain't shit but a name. You came up with that shit in 2 seconds, nigga. It took you 2 seconds. Really? Now he went 10%. I swear. Mr. Prince, is it true that Fox is the one who actually came up with the name The Brush Buddy, and you denied him a percentage of the proceeds after the company sold out? Like, look, this nigga, he aggy as shit, yo. Yeah, it's true, okay? He came up with the name Brush Buddy. What had happened was, I was streaming one day, right? And he just popped up with it. And so I was like, it's a great name, you know? Asked him if he wanted to sign a contract. He told me no in the beginning, initially, from the start, that he was donating his idea of a name, The Brush Buddy, to me as a friend. I offered him $500. He turned that down. You notice how I'm going to tell the story. I ain't lying. This shit gonna be in the book one day. That's like the motherfucker who said he came up with the name Facebook, but he really wasn't part of the company because they were calling it The Facebook. And he said, you know what? You should just drop the from the word. And that was like his major contribution, is like telling them to take the off and just say Facebook. And he sued them motherfuckers for hella money over that shit, yo. I'm deleting this stream soon as it's over. I'm just letting y'all know. Fuck. 3D printer. Yo, my man came up with a good ass idea too, like a fucking mold, yo. What if I just made a mold of it? And then whatever kind of material that I can fit in the mold, whether it be some type of plastic or plaster of Paris or some hemp type product, I don't know. But just think about it. If I had, because it's only 4 pieces, so you make 4 little molds, you can make them shits at home all day yourself, and then just ship them out like that. Like all these girls who make all their home products now, their health and beauty products for their soaps, they have like this little soap mold, and they just put all their oils and aloe and honey and flower petals and animal fat. I don't know what else goes in the soap. Waxes. I don't know. What makes the suds bipolar. Anyway, the soap stuff, and they put it in a little soap mold, and it gets hard, and they take it out, and they cut it until their soap sizes, and they reuse the mold and make some more soap. So I'm thinking, damn, if I can make a mold of this brush holder, on my days off, I can just sit home and try to make like 50 a day. And then over the weekend, I can have like 100 of them made up and just throw them shit right online. Package them up myself and be like, yo, I got some brush holders. The Brush Buddies. Because that's the name. Paint like the Prince with the Brush Buddy. Can definitely do some shit like that. I need to just figure out what would make, what's a durable material that can be heated up and then cooled in the mold. Something that I can do here without needing a fucking laboratory or a factory or some dumbass shit. Any suggestions on that? I'll take those ideas too. I ain't lying. Shit. Help me out. Help a nigga out. Come on. Help a nigga out. Yeah. Help a nigga out.
Which Christianity is based upon. There's nothing wacky to me about somebody that taught love and kindness and forgiveness and tenderness and giving to the poor, caring about your brothers and sisters. What's wacky is the religious formation of man later, where you got thousands of different denominations and the do's and don'ts and the rules. But as far as Jesus Christ, there's nothing wacky about somebody that gave their life trying to do good for their fellow mankind and show nothing but love.
May I?
That's not wacky.
May I respond?
Sure.
Gave his life.
Yes, he did.
Do you believe that he is now in heaven?
Yeah, blood sacrifice. It always comes back to this. Jesus Christ gave his life, and well, why did he have to have a blood sacrifice? What does God like about that so much, yo? Killing people and having them tortured and beaten and blood, and now you in honor of this resurrected deity, you do a communion where you you partake of his flesh and drink his blood. It's like this weird blood magic is just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and people don't see it. Like, he gave his life for us. Yeah, he had to shed his blood. What does that? How does that change anything for him bleeding and dying? What does that say about your God? Like, oh, I need death and blood and sacrifice to make me happy. That shit is crazy.
He sits on the right hand of the Father, yes.
So you are the kind of Christian who says Jesus is the Son of God and not actually God himself. Because we've gotten that.
I believe he's the Son of God, yes. There are some religions that believe God and Jesus are the same.
And yes, I know.
But see, but
yes, I know. But no, hold on. I'm just asking to clarify. Not actually going down that path.
Okay, good. No, because really that's where we get sidetracked.
But the point is...
but please.
Okay, go ahead.
Jesus
Shut up so
gave
you
his
can
life,
talk.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like vice ruler of the universe.
Vice ruler.
Yeah, there's God and there's Jesus, right? Jesus is like God's right-hand man, his son, right? Only second to God in authority over the entire universe, right? This is a sacrifice? Where's the sacrifice?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff.
That's what's wacky.
Jeff.
See, now it's true. Love and understanding and peace, those are all fine things.
Jeff,
those are all absolutely fine. Now, caller, I'm going to have to insist that you let me talk.
Okay, great.
I'm going to have to insist that you let me have my say.
Sorry.
Right? We let you have your say.
I bet.
Love and peace and understanding, we're all in favor of those.
That's right.
Right? We didn't need some guy to come down to claim that he was like, vice ruler of the universe and come down and tell us that those are good things in the first place.
Jeff,
none of us guys
how
here.
do you know that? You weren't here 2,000 years ago.
I'm incapable of communicating with this guy.
Yeah.
So either if he's not going to let me talk.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now you keep saying that you're sorry, but you keep doing it.
My bad. You go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
So now, not only was a Jesus not necessary to bring that message to human beings in the first place, because human beings without a Jesus can figure that out. Check it out, right? But second, we're asked to believe not only that this guy brought this unnecessary message, but also that he died, except his death gets him this job as like second in command of the entire universe.
No.
It's not. Where's the sacrifice?
No.
That's the wacky part. Okay. You were saying it's not wacky. That bit is wacky.
No, it's really not. Are you finished?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, I am. Please, go ahead.
I know it's not wacky. That first of all, it's easy for us to talk about where's the sacrifice, but you and I weren't crucified. And
what's that got to do with anything?
What's
that got to do with anything? If you can,
that's the sacrifice. He gave his life. He literally gave his life for mankind.
Caller, if I knew that after 3 days I would be raised from the dead and got to be one of the co-ruler of the universe, I'd be happy to be sacrificed.
Yeah. He was
Nail me up.
He was already in the position with the Father before he came to earth. He didn't have to come down here and die to become co-ruler.
It didn't cost him anything. What did it cost him? The sacrifice entails a cost. What's the cost?
His life.
3 days. He's up in heaven, second in command of the universe.
He was before.
How is that relevant?
Before, Jeff.
It's like, remember
he was already there.
Caller, remember what you were saying a second ago about how the rapture isn't the end of the world because we all get to go on? Then death wasn't Jesus' end. He got to go on. What's the big deal?
Well,
if you're going to make that argument about the rapture, you got to admit that you just made it when you talk about a guy dying and going to heaven. Particularly when he goes to heaven and gets a big frickin' prize.
He was already, he had that prize before he came to earth. He had to die and then be risen to become.
Yeah, but he had to deal with, walking around the sandals and the robes and stuff and not actually getting to do much of anything except occasional miracles until he died. Then he got to sit in a throne next to Daddy and run the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If death matters, then it matters, right? If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, right? You can't say the end of the world doesn't matter because everybody's going to continue in a new kind of existence in heaven.
No.
But then turn around and say it doesn't matter. It does matter because Jesus died and that made such a big difference. A friend of mine did the math. You know how long Jesus spent on the cross for the average guy?
Something like
a microsecond.
Yeah, something like
a microsecond for every human being that ever lived.
Well, come on,
where is the sacrifice? You guys blow this way out of proportion. Yeah, I understand. I'm looking forward to the Passion of the Christ film because the story is very moving, right? Nobody likes the idea of anybody suffering unnecessarily. That is a valid and moving story. But all this stuff about he's the son of God, he's got superpowers, right? All that stuff is unnecessary baggage that we're asked to believe, and you can't prove a darn bit of it.
Well, you don't have to prove it. I agree that you can't prove it because we're not living at that time. But first of all, Jeff,
well, really, you know,
we're not living at that
whether
time.
you have to prove it or not depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get us to stop saying it's wacky,
no, I'm not.
then I have to prove it.
I'm not trying to get you to stop anything other than talking about. See, when we give ourselves words and adjectives, and we talk about wackiness, really all Jesus Christ did was these things that I mentioned about love and kindness, forgiveness. But Jesus came it's a part of a plan of salvation for the redemption of mankind.
Yeah, we've heard all about that too.
And we could go off on a tangent about how about how weird that is. That this God who is the creator of the universe would have to go pull this stunt of having a half-human child and then run him through all these tests and tortures and things in order to get to the point where he can forgive us. A God who's in charge of the universe could just say, I think it's time to forgive those folks. Bang.
Okay, I know. If you don't believe, I understand.
And I not only don't believe, I think it's nuts.
Yeah. Well, there's a thinking and a rationing that you and I have. And see, if I'm like you and think logic and rational and carnal, that's how I'm going to think too. Because unless you believe and have faith in either the Bible or God, it does sound wacky.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but the thing you got to do is get beyond men thinking and carnal thinking and
believe. And what we need to do is believe stuff with no evidence.
Yes.
Gotcha.
The problem with that.
But when you're on Earth and you want to believe in stuff, we need evidence here on the planet. But this is a spiritual thing that's above us. And
I'm not even going to think about spiritual things above us if you can't prove there's any such thing. Why should I?
God needs
the way I live my life.
Okay, it's actually.
Let me just have my quick segment.
See, I told you.
If I have
video games,
if I have to figure out how to run my life, now I have the choice of being Christian and devoting my life to that and getting the reward in heaven, or I could say, okay, there's another belief that says that I have to go live up in the mountains and wear gray robes and meditate for 6 hours a day to get enlightenment.
Right.
That's another path I could follow, or I could just be an atheist.
Right.
There are hundreds of different choices. Now, I have to go through the world and look for which one of these seems to be the most likely one.
Right.
And so I'm going to base my decision based on actual evidence. Now, you've already admitted that there is no evidence of God, Jesus, the Bible, the rapture, or anything like that.
No, I didn't say that about the Bible.
Therefore, that's going to be one of the less likely choices on my list.
True.
Whereas, atheism and, science and rational thinking, that I can back up with, rational thinking and science.
Right.
And so that's got actual evidence behind it.
Right.
That's the one I'm going to lean
I understand your logic. I understand what you're saying.
We got to move on because it's like the last 7 minutes of the show. But
okay,
call and
just a moment.
Call us. Well, we're out of time. But we'll call us back next time. All right.
Anyway, when you wake up in the morning, look at the sunshine and the moon, and that is your evidence. That is the creation of the Father, and that is evidence.
No, not evidence from a God.
Yeah.
No,
that's a huge ball of hydrogen gas that is burning like you wouldn't believe.
There are untold trillions of other star systems just like it.
Yeah.
Untold trillions.
Not evidence of a God.
All sort of just scattered around with nothing bringing them into any kind of order except gravity and physics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
not a shred of evidence of a God.
But there's very little point, I guess, in going on that path.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, now if you had like the scene in
Got one of those.
in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where they knew that who was it?
Slarty Forrest.
Bart Forrest had created Norway because his big signature is along the side of a mountain range. Okay, now that might be evidence of something, but quickly, anybody who thinks that Jesus was all about forgiveness should read John 3:36.
Yeah, and anyway. I think that guy's absolutely right. You have to just believe.
Yeah,
and you know what?
We're not the
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If you have to just believe, then you shouldn't do it.
Okay,
if you're asked to believe it without a shred of evidence, you should say no.
Think you know FanDuel? Well, what if we told you that we've got an ace up our sleeve? Introducing FanDuel Casino. Now you can play casino games like blackjack.
Hello, freak bitches. Why do these patterns repeat themselves? What is it about human beings?
Well, we like things simple. We like things simple. And then you often, like, a simple explanation is a good explanation unless it's too simple, but distinguishing between simple and matter. We like to know who's our friend and who's our enemy, and we like the feeling of unearned moral superiority. And
unearned moral superiority.
Yeah,
that's the
why
the
earn it,
distinction.
man? Especially when there's no such thing as earning anyways. So, and then, I mean, there's deeper and darker things that are underneath that. It's like the human proclivity to pull down those who have more than you. It's like these kids on the campuses who are claiming identity with the oppressed, you know, at somewhere like Yale. It's like, how in the world you can speak of oppression if you happen to be at Yale is beyond me. I mean, first of all, you're North American, which puts you in the top 1%. And then of North Americans, you're in the top 1%. So you're in the top 1% of 1%. But yet you want that. You want to have all the power that goes along with that. And you want to have the moral superiority that comes from being a representative of the oppressed. So that's exactly what you want. You want all the power and you want all the victimization at the same time.
Well, Yale's a great example because Yale was one of what happened with the Halloween costume debacle at Yale was one of the first videos that was released that made people horrified, where they couldn't believe how students were communicating with professors.
Yeah, well, the student who screamed up a storm about that the male professor who was the husband of the woman who wrote the pro-Halloween costume letter, it turned out she was on the bloody hiring committee that hired him. One of the things she screamed was, "Who hired you?" It was like, well, it turned out it was you because you were on the committee just a few years before. I know, and they took, like, yeah, that was absolutely
Explain that
appalling.
to people that don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Well,
explain this debacle because it really was about questionable Halloween costumes.
Well, it was about questioning Halloween costumes. Halloween costumes are part of the whole point of Halloween is to have questionable costumes, right? You play with death, for example, and decay and horror, and it's a time when the norms with regards to the expression of things that are outside of our normal behavior are suspended so that everybody can have a little celebration. As it turns out, well, you know, campuses have got all upset about things like cultural appropriation. At Queen's University in Canada just the other week, they were going after students who were dressing up as Viet Cong, for example, or Mexicans. It's like, I just don't see what the hell's racist about dressing up like a Mexican. Mexicans have a traditional clothing. There's nothing wrong with Mexicans, so why is it wrong to dress up like them?
Right.
And
if you want to be Pancho Villa for Halloween, what's wrong with that?
well, you can regard that as an homage just as much as a denigration. It's
Absolutely.
like, why is that such a problem?
Right.
But anyways, it doesn't matter because nothing's too trivial to be a problem to a social justice warrior, and because they don't like to deal with real problems. And Yale went after Halloween costumes.
So this woman wrote a letter saying maybe we should just relax about this stuff and, you know, don't put restrictions on what people wear for Halloween, but let people decide what is and isn't offensive.
Yes, and many Halloween costumes are offensive. That's the point.
But her letter wasn't really reasonable.
Yeah, it was perfectly reasonable. It was like an adult wrote it.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, all hell broke loose.
All hell broke
and
loose.
she ended up quitting.
And I think he did.
No,
he
I don't
leave?
think I don't think he left. I don't think he left, but she did.
Seeing him bow down to this woman screaming at him, swearing in his face, was so disturbing. It was so humiliating. I felt so humiliated for him because she was screaming, "This is our home. What the fuck are you doing? You're not making this safe."
And it's not her bloody home. The university's not a home.
Right.
It's not a safe space. It's not a secure space. None of that. And if that when a university isn't a home, that's not what it is. It's a place to be confronted by, I would say, often horrible ideas. You want to learn about history? You think that's going to be safe? Do you know what human history is like? It's an endless bloodbath with a certain amount of hopeful progress underlying it. It's a horror show, and great literature is like that. and biology is terrifying, and physics is terrifying, and you know, with a certain amount of hopeful progress underlying it. It's horrible ideas. You want to learn about history? You think that's going to be safe? Do you know what human history is like? It's an endless bloodbath with.
And one thing I see, I know about Europeans is when they talk about history, they only really refer to their history, European history. Most of the time, the real history that took place on all the continents prior to colonization, Africa, Australia, and North America, like, they don't care. He's not talking about that history. Oh, when you look at history, it's a bloodbath. But him being of European descent, he's only talking about European history. And when you look at what the Europeans did, it's always been a bloodbath for them. Everywhere they go, they conquer and kill everything. Conquer and kill, conquer and kill. And if anyone else were as motivated and as good as they were, then the dominant population in Canada and North America would be Indian or Arab or African. And then all the world leaders would look one way. But we see who has conquered the most and who has been the most productive at controlling others. And so, yeah, your history is going to be a bloodbath, because that's how you took power and maintained power. So it's weird to hear different people talk about history, because you already know, like, what part or whose history they're referring to.
Horrible ideas. You want to learn about history? You think that's going to be safe? Do you know what human history is like? It's an endless bloodbath with a certain amount of hopeful progress underlying it. It's a horror show. And great literature is like that. And biology is terrifying, and physics is terrifying, and you want to be safe. It's stay home. Stay home with your mom. Stay home with your dad. Don't come to university if you want to be safe. Because
don't even go outside.
No, why don't if the university is going to make you safe, then it ceased to be a university. So one of the things I try to do in my class, I have this class called Maps of Meaning, which concentrates on atrocity, basically, on Soviet atrocity and Nazi atrocity mostly. And what I try to do in the class is to teach my students that had they been in Nazi Germany in the 1930s, they would have been Nazis. And had they been offered the opportunity to be an Auschwitz camp guard, then maybe they would have leapt at it. And maybe they would have been in the more sadistic proportion of the Auschwitz camp guard population. You think that makes you feel safe? It doesn't make you feel safe to know that Nazis were humans and you happen to be one of them. So I think that educators that tell students that they're offering them a safe space are doing them a profound disservice. And I'm a clinical psychologist, and here's one of the things you do to make people less afraid. You don't make the world safer. What you do is people tell you what they're afraid of, and then you break it into little bits so that they can go confront them. So maybe they're afraid of going to a party, and you break that down. You say, well, do you know how to introduce yourself? And you say, well, I don't really know how to shake someone's hand. And so then you practice having them shake their hand and introduce themselves, because maybe they weren't taught by their half-witted parents when they were young, because they were ignored. And so then you say, well, maybe you can go to a party for half an hour, and all you have to do is introduce yourself to 2 people, and we'll call that success. And you build up their confidence and their confidence one step at a time. And what happens, the clinical literature indicates quite clearly, is you don't make people less anxious by doing that. You make them braver. It's not the same thing. You don't make the world and its horrors smaller. You make the person and their capacity to deal with horror larger. You encourage them. You strengthen them. That's what you do at a university. You arm people with arguments. You hone their intellect. You help them learn to write so they can marshal their arguments. You help them learn how to engage in intellectual combat, because that's better than engaging in real combat. You make them hard and strong. mollycoddle them and make them safe, unless you're their enemy, unless you're trying to devour their spirit. And that's what we have in the universities. We have the reign of the Oedipal mother, whose answer to everything is, "Oh, just come a little closer, dear, and I'll protect you from the world." It's just like Hansel and Gretel's, the witch in the Hansel and Gretel story. "Well, my house is made of gingerbread. Just come in here and everything will be fine." Well, she feeds you candy to fatten you up so she can eat you. That's the archetype of a modern university.
Few more callers. I know that we've had some interest in someone named Clear as Crystal, who is an ex-atheist and wants to talk to us about how we can know God. So this is going to be fun. This is what the whole show is about. Right. Crystal, can I call you Crystal?
Sure, that's fine.
Perfect. All right. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello, Crystal.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
What you got for us?
Yeah, so tell us how we can know God. Well, why are you no longer an atheist?
Wow. Okay. Well, well, you know someone when you meet someone, when they answer you. God, I know as an ex-atheist, no one could prove anything to me. So I find that interesting to try to prove something that is
is that what you think an atheist is? Is somebody who's proved that there's no God, or do you have a different definition of it?
No, an atheist. Well, as far as I understand, as far as I was an atheist, I figured if I didn't see God, then, or He doesn't answer me, or whatever, then I wouldn't know or wouldn't believe that He was there. So that would be my understanding as an atheist. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's changed.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And of course, being an atheist is an individual experience as much as being a theist is. So let me see. So for you, your reason for being an atheist is you couldn't see God and God wasn't answering you when you tried to talk to Him.
Yeah, and plus, what really made the change was being told about evolution as science, and that kind of really was a breaker for me, because I thought,
oh, interesting. Wow. Okay, so you're saying change. So you weren't always an atheist. You were someone who believed in a God, and then you became an atheist, and now you're not anymore. Is that kind of the progression there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
What was it about evolution that was a factor there? How did that sway you one way or the other, if at all?
I just couldn't accept or believe that if a God that I would actually look up to, and that if God was God, existed, that was the best He would be able to do, was to start something and then just let it roll from there. Which was what some theists believe evolution is, I think, but I just couldn't accept that. So, at any rate, yeah.
So I'm curious about what brought you back out. So we've got a pretty good idea, and kudos, by the way, you're very good at summarizing these points very succinctly and moving us along. So thank you for that. So we've got an idea of what you eventually went into atheism with. Hey, can't see God, God isn't talking to me, even though I'm trying to talk to Him. And also evolution seems like a weird process for an all-powerful being to choose as creation. So what brought you back out the other side then?
Well, I was like 15 in sophomore in high school when evolution was taught as science. to me. That changed it. It was very easy to become an atheist at that point. It took about a good 5 years of looking around the world and my experience and realizing that man does not know how to deal with things. Man could not get things together, and not by himself. And it was basically, I saw a Lord of the Flies existence on the earth, and we needed a grown-up. That's basically how I saw it, and I'm being very honest here, and that just didn't make sense to me at this point, that man could really do very much right. I mean, obviously man can do a lot of good things, but not get it all together the way I would think, So anyway.
That's interesting. Do you mind if I jump in real quick? Because I've got a question for you with that. Because to an extent, I agree. Like, humans just kind of do need a grown-up sometimes. But if you're looking around the world and you're seeing that humans just can't get it together, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're hurting each other, they're hurting the environment, they're, whatever it is that you're seeing as a problem, and you say, hey, well, clearly we need someone better than us, or clearly we need an adult, or, some God figure. If God exists,
then why
and
isn't
we're
shit
still
right?
not getting it together.
Exactly.
I don't know, like what have
the
you
fuck
seen
is God
as
doing?
an example of humans with a parental figure? Because if God exists and we're still not getting it together, then clearly he's not helping much, right?
Where is God? Right, I get that. What I understand, and actually, man has free will. We have our own minds. We have our own
So then we
hearts,
don't need a God then.
and we have our own minds, our own will, and for God to have us seek Him, it would be out of our own will that you actually turn to Him. Now, if you don't want to know Him, you don't. You don't have to. It's up to you. But He will answer you. I'm not just saying you have to make it up either. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to. You don't have to, wish to a certain extent, pray to a certain extent. You just have to turn to Him, and He will answer you.
You didn't answer me.
So why do you think? Do you think this God answered you, and is that why you're no longer an atheist?
Well, I know He answered me because I was I guess, do any of you know what depression can be? Or how?
Oh, yes.
Okay. The morning I got up, I couldn't get up out of bed. I had to roll out of bed because I was so depressed. It was like clinical depression.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my last day. I knew that I could do anything like this. This was something had to happen. So I went through got myself through the day because I'm pretty strong-willed with doing things myself, like most people. You get up, you go to work, you do whatever you have to do. And at the end of this day, I just knew, I said, well, now I just went through all my options. What do I do? And something I didn't know if you understand the difference between a thought and someone else, but this was just a very small thought, mind, thinking, voice, I'm not even sure, but it just asked me, why don't you call out to God? And I actually answered it because I knew it wasn't me. Because I said, well, because I don't believe in God. I mean, how would I call out to someone? And certainly someone I don't like at this point. If he did exist, and he started us with evolution, I don't like him. I don't see the point of him to be there. Why would he do that? Why would God just start everything and leave us like that? So anyway, that was my dilemma at that point, and very honest and all I'm saying is you can be totally honest with him just as you are. Just give him a chance. Just give him a chance to, and that's what I did when I left out when I went through my other options. Then I said, okay, well, God, help me. And that's all I said was 3 words. But now you have to understand that was at a point when I guess I had nothing else to do here. I was between a rock and a hard place, and God answered. That answered, taken everything out of me.
Okay, so Crystal, let's pause there for a minute because that's a lot of information, and I know that we kind of want to have this as a conversation. So I do have a couple questions, but yes, first, thank you for sharing that. Talking about mental illness is not easy, especially, on a show that other people are watching. So thank you for sharing. And I'm sorry that that's an experience that you had and may continue to have. That's not fun. It's not something I would wish on anyone.
Okay.
So I do want to ask you a couple things, and the first one is just, I also grew up Christian. I also deconverted. While I was deconverting, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be converting. It was like waking up from a dream that was really nice and you wanted to go back to sleep, but you were being forced to wake up by your body or by the sunlight or whatever. And the entire time, I remember there were nights where I would be alone in a room crying about the fact that I was losing this relationship, that I was losing God. I honestly sought God. I was 100%. That was the ideal outcome of this whole situation would be I would prove to myself that God existed, God would talk to me, God would show me, God would come to me, and then I could put all of this questioning, all of this doubt behind me. It was a very painful process, and I know a lot of people for whom it was very painful. Now, my question for you is, why didn't God answer me?
Okay. The best I can give an example is,
You're a lame ass bitch and God.
I don't know.
Exactly. Don't know.
And that's a good answer. That's fine.
But I do know that an example, or a physical example perhaps, is when a seed falls into a ground. If the ground is fertile, has water,
the 4 patches of
etc.
earth. Yes.
Right. If it's too, I would only say that's the only thing I could explain. If something is not ready, as much as you think you're ready, that's all I could think of. That's really all I can explain with that.
Yeah. And that's understandable, especially if you grew up in a tradition where that was a parable that you learned as a kid, and you now ascribe to that religion again. I'm assuming it's the same religion. You didn't hear God and are now a different religion than you were when you were a kid.
I grew up. I was Catholic. Which is considered Christian, but yeah, I didn't believe everything in Catholicism, and I don't now.
Okay.
But
I'm wondering a couple of things, if you don't mind me jumping in here a little bit. I'm wondering lots of things actually, because you said some very interesting things, and these are things that a lot of people will say as the reason why they think a God is real. They were going through some difficulties. They think there's no way that they could have got through it by themselves. And it was only because of the grace of God that got them through it. And there are a lot of people who may think that their ground is fertile and they're ready to receive it. And then there may be other people who look back on it and say, yeah, I just wasn't ready for that message or whatever. I guess one of my questions to you is, well, there's an even more fundamental question here. Do you think you have to think that God is real and got you through that difficult time to keep from falling into depression again? Do you need to have that?
Okay, no, because he did answer me. He took it out of me in 1 minute, like a wink of an eye. I can all explain that.
No. I wasn't getting to the actual event. I'm wondering, do you need to have God in your life to keep from being depressed again?
I don't keep from going to that extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, because without God, there is really no meaning in life other than temporary meaning or what you try to make of it what others say it is, etc.
Let's shift gears just a little bit now. How do you know people who had depression and were able to get through it without attributing it to a God or saying that they heard God's voice or anything along? You know people like that?
I don't know. I don't.
Would you
know
say it's possible?
Like I've heard. I do know there's medication people take. I know psychologically things can be talked out of. Because you go through certain, things when you're a child that you need to talk to someone about, and you still might need to talk to someone about. So
good. So you've listed a couple scenarios where somebody could get through depression without attributing it to a God's voice or something along those lines. And why do you think?
To a certain degree.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to try re-asking this question. Yeah. If we talked about all your reasons for thinking God was real, and you started coming to the realization that you have no good reasons for thinking it, and you acknowledge that there are other people that can get through difficult times and depression without attributing it to a God, do you think that that's something that you would be able to manage? Could you be an atheist and still manage your depression?
If I can explain, when God answers you, there's no wondering if it's Him or not.
I'm not even contesting whether you had the experience of this God or not.
Right, I understand, but what I mean to say is, once you do, once He answers, you know Him. He continues after that. It's not just a matter of, oh, that was one shot, Now I don't hear from him ever again, because He continues always. Not always, but I mean, He continues to talk or to show me things. On the way up to my steps, after I was taking my dog out that evening, 10 o'clock that evening, I was walking up, and just instantly the thought was, did that really happen? And instantly, the Lord spoke to me within my heart now this time, and He just told me, you're all right now. You're going to be all right. And I knew it was God, and there was no question. And
I understand that you're having these. I understand that you had this event, and you're having subsequent events that seems to be confirming that the God is interacting with you and talking to you.
Right.
My question. Let me just get this question out. Yeah, it's probably my bad. I'm even though I ask a lot of questions, I'm known for asking questions, I don't always ask very clear, concise ones. So I apologize. So I'll put that on me. My question is, if we looked at these experiences that you're reporting to us now, and you yourself came to realize that you have no good way of determining that it was your God, do you think that you would be able to still manage your depression and still have a loving, meaningful life without one?
I don't know what it would be. I obviously can't answer. I'm not sure if I would be here, because He is the only reason that I'm actually alive right now. So
okay, so this is an important thing for people who are listening also. Mm-hmm. These beliefs are critical to how we navigate the world and deal with hardships. And your God may very well be real. I don't think it's the case. I don't think you were actually communicating with a God. I think you got through this yourself, and you're stronger than you think that you are. However, you may not think that that's the case. And if this is a belief that you think that you need to deal with those hardships, then I think I would not be as persistent with my questionings until you came to acknowledge to yourself and to me, or to other people, that you can find a way to manage, like you've acknowledged that people can do, without thinking that a God got them through that difficult moment. Because that's where I am with you. Because the last thing I want, and I'm sure V too, the last thing we want is to cause you harm. And I think, I don't really know what to think and where to go with this conversation, because I don't know how devastating it would be to you personally if you realize that you have no good reason for thinking that this is true. And until I can get a sense of where you are on that, I don't really want to challenge you that much on your reasons for thinking that God is real, until I can get a clear answer on that issue. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I understand. I hope you understand that no one can talk you into something spiritual. I do have a question just to show you about thoughts, feelings, and memories. Thoughts, feelings, and memories. All of them are, they're there. You have your own thoughts, right? You have your own feelings, and you have your own memories. You know they're there, but no one can see them.
Right.
You couldn't prove them unless you spoke your thought and were honest about your thought, I guess you would say. But, but nevertheless, they're there. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to say, is that maybe if you understood when God, an invisible being can be there, even if you don't see him or hear him at this point, but that doesn't mean he's not there. Okay?
Right.
So
no, I think I follow you.
Right.
I think I follow you in that it's probably difficult to explain to us how important this event was to you and how real it was, to the point where you say, I know that this happened. And I can imagine it must be really frustrating when you tell people this story and we don't find it all that compelling because we didn't experience it. So I feel for you, because I would be besides myself if this happened and I had no good way of communicating it to others that it did. It would be really frustrating. And I think I would put that frustration on the God. Why did the God do this to me, to the point where I can't convince others that this is real? So I think I follow where you're at. However, I do still think that we could probably have a conversation about how you're validating that that was God, to the point where you would start to wonder if it really was. And I don't know.
No. You don't wonder when you meet someone. When you meet someone, let's say you meet the King of England or the Queen of England. And then you turn around and say, well, gee, I don't know if I met her or not. I mean, you met the Queen of England, right? When you meet them, if you met them in person, you know the person next to you, that they're there when you meet them. You don't turn around and go, oh, okay, well, I think they're there. No, they are there. So you're not going to shake anything from me. That's funny. You're not going to shake something from me by worrying about what I went through. It doesn't. That was the best thing I can go through in my whole life.
That's the thing that concerns me. Is that that's the thing that concerns me a little bit. Is that this was a profound experience that you've had. You're certain that it was this God. It got you through a very dark time, and I still don't know if challenging you on that position would make things worse for you. I'm actually still not sure.
No, you can't. You can't. You can't shake anything from. Like I just said, you don't. I just met someone. You're not going to worry me to say, well, no, that person doesn't exist, even though I just met him, right?
Well, I'm glad that you feel confident in your mental health right now, it sounds like. But I also don't think that if the idea of questioning that is laughable, I don't know if this conversation is useful moving forward. Of course, if you're willing to have a conversation about how you validate these things and are open to the possibility that you might learn something from us, then definitely call back. But in the meantime, stay healthy and as best as you can, continue to look after your mental health.
Thank you so much for calling, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so thank you for kind of taking point on that, Anthony. I think that is exactly the kind of conversation where street epistemology and that more open kind of introspective approach is so useful, because that could have gone several different ways, and because it's such a touchy topic, and because we are concerned for her health and her safety. It is better to have conversations in as empathetic a way as possible.
Right.
I do want to. Sorry.
Oh, just on that last caller. Thank you. It can be really tempting for an atheist to want to challenge a person on their views, because we know all the arguments, and if you're good at SE, I honestly think 5 questions, and she would probably start to wonder if that really was her God. The thing, though, I don't know if I really want to go down that road with her because I'm not sure if she's, and I asked that like 3 times, and I don't think I really got a good answer. It wasn't a sufficient answer to me to say, okay, go for it, game on.
Yeah.
What I got back in return is, no, it was so real that there's nothing that you can do or say to make that happen. That's not what I'm asking.
Right.
I'm asking if it happened. I know it sounds far-fetched. So we have to be careful with how we engage with people on these talks. And she did reach out to us too, so it's kind of tempting to push it, but I don't know her. We have to be gentle.
And also, here's a really good rule of thumb. I know that at the beginning we asked her, what an atheist meant, like what being an atheist meant to her. And she said, well, I couldn't see God and I couldn't hear him. So I was an atheist. And so, of course, if that's your criteria for whether or not you believe in a God, if you hear something that you think is God, then that's going to slot right into the 2 things that you had as your reasons for being an atheist and maybe give you a turn. There are good reasons to be an atheist and there are less good reasons to be an atheist. But to make the assumption that I am an atheist because I can't see or hear God, or that Anthony is an atheist because he can't see or hear God, doesn't get us very far conversation-wise.
It was a pretty wishy-washy definition of atheist, and whenever someone says, I used to be an atheist, right? Like you hear that and you're like, oh boy, what does that exactly mean? And then it was like this thing with how evolution just doesn't seem like it could be the case, and it was just really...
It's very interesting how many of these ex-atheists were Christians first, and then go back to the God that they believed in prior. There's a reason that you tend to go back to that. If Crystal had been a Catholic and then deconverted and then asked for help, and Anubis came to her and was like, I'm here, I'm ready to help you, then we would take a different track to that conversation. Like, okay, that's interesting. Tell us more about that. But the fact that in a moment of stress, in a moment of deep depression, where you are more prone to things like auditory hallucination, you hear something or you feel something in an effort to preserve your own sense of self, your own sense of sanity. And it sounds very much like what you heard as a kid, those imprints, those things that you were indoctrinated to think before you, quote unquote, deconverted. That's not surprising to me. That's not compelling as evidence. But
now we don't know how long she was raised with this belief. I don't think she said, but
she said when she was 15 she deconverted, and then it took her, I think she said 7 years to get back to it. But
if you're told your whole life that God will be there in your darkest moments when you need him the most, and then it just happens to be the case, and then you're using that as your justification for thinking that it's true. I mean, I can understand how you arrived there and how you could be so sure that that's the case. But like lots of people say similar things and they attribute it to completely different gods.
Exactly.
Jonathan in Tallahassee, how are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me all right?
I can, thanks.
All right. So I'm a Christian, and I'm calling to better understand the atheist worldview with respect to the scientific method.
There isn't one.
And so...
There isn't one, Jonathan.
So we'll start there.
Yeah, so atheism isn't a worldview. It's a position on a single issue, and that's whether or not a God exists. However, once you get to that point, and you're now a person who is living a life without interference from gods, you then have to begin to put together worldviews that allow you to assess the reality that you experience. And so what you'll find is that there are quite a lot of atheists who share similar views about science and things like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. For example, Buddhists are primarily atheists, and they have a number, in some of the Buddhist sects, have a number of supernatural ideas that I reject. And so I'm a skeptic, and that's what drives my atheism. I'm applying skepticism and critical thinking to the God claim, and I apply that to others as well. But skepticism and humanism are far more along the lines of what I would call my worldview than atheism. Atheism is just my take on the God thing. You could be an atheist and not support church-state separation.
So, in respect to then, I guess I would say a skeptic, would you say that you use the scientific method to determine if, there's evidence for a claim, correct?
To some extent. I mean, it's not like this is where the language gets kind of muddy, because when you start talking about the scientific method, it may be an oversimplification. Basically, we're using critical thinking and skepticism and evaluating the evidence in the best way possible, which tends to revolve around the tools that are commonly used by science. Science is really just a rational, critical examination of evidence and attempting to build models and hypotheses that explain those.
So I guess I really only want to ask the question if most atheists take to the scientific, method of determining if something's rational or not. I mean, that's pretty common, correct? That for atheists to look to that method to determine if something is rational or irrational, correct?
I would say it's pretty common. I would hope that it'd be a hell of a lot more common than it seems to be.
Okay. So I want to bring up a problem that I see with trusting that method for evidence. Is that something we can talk about?
Sure, but I don't necessarily pull an end around, but the thing is that science doesn't lead to proofs, to absolute certainty. Science develops tentative positions that are the best current explanations for the evidence. And so it's not so much a pronouncement of truth, it's this particular model and theory is the one that has withstanded the most rigorous examination and is the one that seems to be most consistent with the evidence and the one that actually makes predictions that have been continually borne out and hasn't failed.
So in this case, this is where I get kind of interested when you make that statement, because when you look at, for example, the ancient texts, the Holy Bible, the New Testament books, can you not say that they withstanded the test of time and that today people look to those for some sort of rationalization about their world? Do you think that looking to the ancient text is maybe not as important for some reason, and could you give that reason as looking to a scientific method?
Okay, so those ancient religious texts have definitely stood the test of time in the sense that they still exist and that people still, as you pointed out, go to or look to them for rationalizations, which was actually your word. I don't even know that it's all rationalizations. I can say that these books have been around. They have been valuable to people for whatever reason, but they are not a reliable pathway. So, like, for example, let's say that the Bible gave us some piece of information that we didn't have at the time. And it turned out to be, I'm reluctant to use the word true, but reliable and good and accurate. It doesn't matter at all. It wasn't reliable until we verified its reliability using the critical examination of evidence. So it didn't really inform us of anything. But what you could do is you could look at it and say, okay, how many things did it get right? How many things did it get wrong? But you can't, let's say it got 99 things right. Does that mean that the next thing that you read in there is actually right too? Or no, I mean, that it wouldn't necessarily be true, even if it was all written by a single individual, which it wasn't. So I don't see any reason to go to an old book for answers.
Right. So I think what I wanted to ask, in relation to the statements you just made, is that, if we look at scientific discoveries in the next 100 years, for example, you could take the Higgs boson particles. You know much of what they're doing with the particle accelerator and whatnot. I don't want to talk about something that maybe you don't know about, or
I know enough to know that they got a Nobel Prize, and I don't know what. When you say what they're doing with it, I don't know that they're actually doing anything with it at the moment.
Right. Well, they're trying to compare what they found to an actual scientific model so that it kind of makes sense to them. And the thing I wanted to bring up based on that is that I see that scientific discovery continues to change, and of course, a new discovery replaces an old one. And over the years, it's just
not necessarily replace. Sometimes it's just amends or improves our understanding. It's not like we necessarily toss out everything.
Yeah, I can agree there. It amends, and sometimes it can change quite a bit. And so, over the years, as it continues to change, is it not the same as, taking into account the ancient texts and how today?
No, because the ancient texts don't change. That's the difference. Religion is static, and science is dynamic. There's no progress when you assert that you know the answer from the beginning. Religion retards progress. The only reason that I give religions any credit for advancing science is that in order to help spread their religion, many religions were responsible for building places of higher learning that allowed and in some cases encouraged scientific exploration, and in many cases discouraged scientific exploration. We need to look no further than Galileo and what the church did to him.
So it sounds like to me that it would be for an atheist to even consider looking to an ancient text, as in the Holy Bible, as an irrational, way to interpret their world, as opposed to looking at, the way, even though science is dynamic and continually is going to change, that would be a more viable, source of how you want to look at your world. And would that make sense?
That'd be the method. You see, one of the things is that you can examine the claims, whether they come from an old book or a new observation. And so we can examine, for example, the claims in the Bible and see if they, bear out scientifically. They don't, or they don't tend to, in any remarkable sense.
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to, or kind of like an analogy I wanted to make was, for example, going back to the discovery of, the Higgs boson, supposedly particle and whatnot, as they're trying to apply it to one of their scientific models, is it not that, they didn't invent the original particles, as in, I'll say they didn't cause or create the original particles that they're testing. And it kind of makes me think about the movie The Matrix, where, someone is on the outside looking in who does know how the original particles were caused or created. And that's where the real knowledge is located. And so in the case of looking to the Holy Bible or the ancient texts for an understanding of your world, how could you not know if you didn't try? And that's kind of where I've been going as far as, understanding why, an atheist would reject that. Why wouldn't you at least try to look for some answers?
Okay, so first of all, I don't know what makes you think that atheists haven't tried. Maybe you don't realize, I was a fundamentalist Christian for more than 25 years and was studying to become a minister. So it's not just a matter of trying. I actively believed those things. I gave them up because the evidence did not support continuing. It wasn't rational to continue believing those things. Now you're looking at this as if, the Bible could be viewed as the story from the person standing outside looking in. Well, you have no good reason to think that that's actually the case. I don't know how you're distinguishing between that being the case and some other holy text being the case, but the other one is you've already made an assumption that could be fundamentally false, which is that there's any way for anything to be outside looking in. There may not be any outside, and if there is an outside, that doesn't mean it can contain a thinking agent, and even if it does, that doesn't mean that that thinking agent is in any way responsible for the reality we experience. So you're just accepting a whole bunch of things and looking in there to try to find, let me look through this and see if I can make science seem to fit with what the Bible's saying, and that's not scientific.
So that leads me to a huge question, and it's, how do we truly know that something in this life that we didn't cause or create, is impossible or is not?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, let me try to rephrase the question. So, you're saying that I'm making an assumption, and I agree there. But in that case, can you not assume that, the science that, maybe an atheist would look to understand their world, is really, they're really knowing nothing. They're getting nothing from it. It's kind of like the quote, I know that I know nothing. I don't know if you've heard that quote, but
I'm afraid I still don't know what you're actually getting at.
So let's back up to my analogy. From the outside looking in on a scientific discovery, for example.
Outside of what?
So I was talking about a scientific discovery, the Higgs boson supposed particle, and from there I said, well, they think they've discovered something, but because we didn't cause or create those particles that they're testing, they really can't 100% know, right? That they really discovered something.
No, so apart from the issue of solipsism and whether you can absolutely know anything, they're as confident that they actually discovered something in this case as they are with pretty much any other discovery.
Right. And so I feel like that's what not my argument, but my question and my wondering boils down to is, 100% knowing.
So this idea of 100% certainty is pretty much a useless red herring. There's virtually nothing that we know with 100% certainty. Outside of esoteric labels and things like that, logical absolutes, there's nothing that you're going to get 100% certainty about this. This is the problem of hard solipsism. You can't prove that you're not in the matrix. You can't prove you're not a brain in a vat. Although I tend to think that there's good arguments against that, not the least of which is that it would be incredibly arrogant of me to presume that I've written in my head every great song and great poem and, and also all the crappy ones too. So it's more plausible, and as a matter of practical necessity, I have to act as if there are other minds because that's what I directly experience. So I don't know what the problem is with this absolute certainty because, first of all, atheism isn't necessarily the claim that there are no gods, and it's certainly not, even to the extent that it is, for some, it's not the claim that we're absolutely certain that there are no gods. It's about which beliefs are justified. And what I think you were talking about a minute ago was, you acknowledge that you're making an assumption and you don't see what the problem is with that. And the problem is that in order to be intellectually honest, you would have to make, or consistent, you would have to make similar assumptions for other similar categories, which would put you in a position of cognitive dissonance where you are simultaneously accepting contradictory and mutually exclusive claims. If you have no good justification, for example, for believing that the God of the Bible exists, then if you're going to be intellectually consistent, you have to apply that justification, and I put that in scare quotes, to every other God that comes along, which means you would need to believe all of them too. And if you believe